Hey, good afternoon. I'm Undrai Fizer, and welcome to Profoundly Speaking this evening. Hopefully, next Sunday, Lord willing, we'll be back at our regular time at 12 o'clock. But I do want to thank those of you who have intentionally readjusted your schedules to be with us. I'm thankful that you're not only following what I'm talking about and supporting it or agreeing with it and living in congruency with it. I'm happy at your intentional life in flowing in the purposes of God for your life. I'm thankful that you're not simply needing me to say something to you, but you are listening to change in your own heart, that you have moved beyond being forced to be convicted of things, but that you are living out of the love of your own heart, and you're proving to yourself to be a valuable protege in the realm of the Spirit of God. And I'm thankful for that. I love being around people who have an authentic desire and connectivity with the Holy Spirit, because it makes my work easier. Yeah, because now you have shifted me from trying to convince you of something to simply affirming what you're living. And that's strength giving. That is strength giving to me. And so I want to applaud and celebrate and thank all of you. It's not a matter of grading who's better than what. Because see, when your spirituality is still childish, we'll have a personable and childish way of viewing the Spirit. And we'll find ourselves having trouble with people when we have a childish spirituality. When our spirituality is need-based and child is based on what we think someone is saying, till we have to be convinced that somebody's not talking about us. But I'm glad and I'm thankful for those of you who have an adult spirituality, which means you've matured. And the scripture says that when we are on milk, we're like children, but when we're adults in spirit, our senses have been developed. We know what's good and evil. We know we don't need a lot of explaining. And that comes with intention. You just don't get older and your spirituality becomes wise. Because sometimes if we are not training ourselves on purpose, it's not a matter of how good we can be, but we have to put intentional training in our sensitivity to grow up in the Spirit of God. And sometimes we grow older and we're trying to avoid people because people still make us feel bad. You know, we'll say a term like, you don't have a heaven or hell to put me in. But people are putting you in hell. Sometimes if you are not grown in your spirit, people will either put you in heaven. You don't feel you're right with God unless this person makes you feel a certain way. Now you feel right with God. Well, that means there are people who have a heaven to put you in. And then sometimes you feel heavy and low and don't know what to say. And that means people can put you in hell. When you have not grown in your spirit, people have a heaven and a hell to put you in. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. People can put you wherever your own intentions have not established you. People can put you in heaven. People can put you in hell. If people can put you in heaven and hell based on how you react to them, the way they talk, their challenge, their this, then something is not right with you. And you're wasting a lot of time in your heart because something hasn't been right with you. Something is not right in you. And as a teacher, I want those of you who listen to me, who take the time, I want you to be able to have things right in you. I ask a lot of questions. You know, I'm going to tell you something. Whenever the Spirit of God puts his wisdom on social media, he transformed that social media from just being social media. Wherever God's wisdom is, it becomes a curriculum. Write that down. If God speaks on Twitter, if wisdom is on Facebook, if it's on Instagram, wherever God's wisdom is, He changes it from mere social media. It's no longer just social media. It's no longer just a status. It's no longer just an opinion. It becomes a divine curriculum. And so you have to pay attention, or you would pay attention. So I'm thankful for a lot of you who are walking in the powers of God, who are paying attention. It is not a matter of just how good you can be, but you're becoming settled in your emotions to the point you know when God is speaking. You know when it's time to pay attention. And that's when it's time for your emotions and senses to be exercised, to know good and evil, to know what's up. And like I said, we could always say a person has no heaven or hell to put us in. But whenever people control how good you feel, whenever they control how bad you feel, then people are putting you in heaven and hell. Your hands are no longer, your life is no longer in the hands of the Lord. And you could say only God can judge me. Well, you're not perceiving God correctly if you're only saying only He can do it. And so I want your minds to mature. And we hear that, but we avoid the opportunities that bring maturity to our emotions. And we're not going to have an effective spirituality as long as we are children in our spirituality, as long as we are kids in our spirituality. So I'm asking these questions again. Where are you going? Where are you going? Have you found your own findings? See, whatever I teach, if I haven't found it, I can't lead you to it no matter how good I preach. A lot of times our spirituality is based on a hope of something. We declare things we haven't found. We become prophetic in declaring things we have yet to find. We tell people to go and find your money, go and find your job, decree it. But if you have yet to find what you are telling other people to find, then you can't tell me how to obtain it, no matter how good you sound. See, whenever I authentically find something, there is a command in my instruction, whether you follow it or not, whether you agree with it or believe in it or not, because sometimes when we declare and decree for others to find something that we have not found, we take the pursuits personal. We need you to find it to validate us. I need you to find what I spoke to prove what I said was true. But if I find it, I don't need to prove it. There is a command in my voice. A lot of times we've been trained by people who haven't found anything, who haven't found what they're speaking about. So they need a validation. They need you to find it so their words can be true and they can be believed in. But I'm going to tell you something. If I find what I'm talking about, I've already believed in it. I already have the validation because I found what I'm talking about. And those of you who listen, your degree of obedience, your degree of adherence to the truth determines your authentic desire. It means you really wanted it based on the degree of obedience you have to a thing. A lot of us hear a lot, but we don't adhere. We hear a lot, but we don't adhere to it. We're not being masterful stewards of the information that we've heard. The most blessed thing, and I said this in the podcast, the most blessed thing God can give you and is information. And how masterful have you stewarded the information? I ask a lot of questions. I don't get a lot of answers a lot. And so that's my way of trying to see, am I just talking or people just listening? I need to know the degree of the effectiveness of the Spirit that each of us are walking in, so we can learn to be trained correctly. You are not trained in the Spirit by being spoken to. You are trained in the Spirit by the teacher knowing where you are in the training, where you are in the evolution. We have had such impoverished spiritual developments, just being talked to and talked to and talked to, as though we're being begged to change our minds. But no one can beg you to change your mind. The authenticity of what you say you want is found in your adherence to the truth when you hear it. When you say, I want to go here. The adherence in taking advantage of the information proves that what you said was true. It's not a matter of how well you could listen to it, but it's how well you adhere to it. And the more you adhere to it, there is going to be a manifestation of it. There is going to be manifestation, not just doing what someone said for the sake of them not asking if you did it or not. Whenever we obey authentically, there is going to be fruit. Whenever we not just obey, because that word obey almost looks like just tell me what to do and I do it. Whenever we follow the truth of the heart, there is going to be manifestation. Whenever we follow the unction of the Spirit, not just someone giving us directions, but we're still until we get directions. Whenever we flow in congruency with the desire and the responsibility of God, whenever we just live in the power of God, write that down, live in the power of God. When we just live in it, I'm not talking about living in the world and then living in the Spirit when the Spirit comes to tell us to come. When the Spirit tells us to come live in the Spirit. It's not a matter of living carnal until the Spirit tells us to come live over here. But it's living intentionally in the Spirit. Write that down. How many of you are living in the Spirit? Maybe I'll get some answers here. How many of you are living in the Spirit? Living from the Spirit, living from the Spirit. It's not living with Jesus on your mind, but it's living how a Christ would live. Living and allowing the Spirit to regulate his movements. If he was not supposed to be there, he wasn't there. Wherever he was supposed to be, that's where he was. Because his purpose was his map. His purpose was his intention. Raise your hands if you guys know what I'm talking about. Where are you going? And are you going because other people are there? Or are you going because that's where you're supposed to be? I always ask these questions to see how well you are paying attention to the flow of God. I'm asking you guys, where are you going? And do you know where you're going? Not just because it's Sunday. Where are you going? Is it peace of mind? Is it purpose? And if you're wanting peace of mind, are you wanting it because you're tired of the decisions that you make that are making you burdened? Because a lot of times when we are making decisions that make us broke and we say, I want better. But the only way to have better is to think better and to think more with integrity. You can't keep making the same convenient decisions and falling under a weight and asking God to make it better. No, you must make it better by making decisions that seem heavier than your willingness. Am I making sense? You have to make the higher decision. God is not going to just be gracious. You have to make the greater decision. You have to commit to the better. You can't make an old decision and act and tell God, you know my heart. You have to make the level of decision that you're willing to make and that you will make will determine the peace that you receive. You have to decide for peace. You have to decide for power. You have to be responsible. You know, that's what I talk a lot of, responsible spirituality, a responsible purpose. I don't talk a purpose that constantly blames the devil for my troubles. And that's how come I don't really speak of him. I don't have to find the devil trying to hinder me from my troubles. And no, I'm not trying to be arrogant or smart. It's the truth. And so many times we're living carnal and stress and full of stress and immature, living on milk and wanting meat blessings. And it's not a matter of your understanding. You and I understand to the degree of our commitment to spirit. It's not a matter what grade we finished in school. It's not a matter if we have a degree or a certification or anything. Our understanding is based on the degree of our commitment to live. Raise your hands if you follow. Our understanding, it's not a matter of if you know what I'm talking about. Our capacity to follow through is based on the degree of our commitment to live. It's not a matter if we understand the big words and if you put it this way, say it in a certain way. No, I don't need to tell you how your uncommitment or commitment is. You already know what it is. I don't have to put it in word for you to understand what I'm saying. Let me explain something to you. But when we are immature in spirit, whenever we hear spiritual information, we think it's God simply giving sermons. Some of us really think that God's going to talk like God at a certain time. And then when he's no longer talking like God, we could connect to God off the record and ask him questions other than what he's been saying. But God is never off record. God never preaches sermons. Whatever God is speaking at any given time is something you need to know and something you need to do. Sometimes we can give messages and it's like, that's a message. That's like a message. I'm online. It's like a message. And it's like, well, that's a message. It's just some spiritual information. God never preaches a sermon. God is actually speaking to the secrets of your ways. God is always speaking to help us unlearn a system of thought. God is always speaking to us to help us to unlearn a system of thought that's keeping our heart in pain. We could have good days and be in pain. We could have good days and go to work, but we are unfulfilled. God is always speaking to that degree of unfulfillment in you. God is not just talking to talk. God is speaking to the secrets of your ways. God is speaking to the secrets. God is never off the record. God is never setting up a time just to talk religious. God is never just taking time and speaking something to speak and then letting the door open later on for us to discuss something that he didn't speak in the open. Raise your hand if you know what I'm saying. It's always time to unlearn systems that have you unfamiliar and or unfulfilled. It's always time. So your understanding is always based on the degree of your commitment to live, your understanding of a thing. God's purpose is always to get you to be him. You notice every one of you who have a job, you are doing your job assignment, even if you don't feel that's you. I was thinking of this on my way home, and I won't hold you. Every one of you that have a job, whatever your job is, don't you know how you are doing that, even if you feel that's not you? Some of you are teachers. Some of you are administrators. Some of you do different types of work, domestic. Some of you do different things. Don't you know how, and some of you have been doing it for years, and you could say that's not you, but you're doing it. First of all, you get paid to do it. It's a job. And so you get paid to do it. Don't you know payments cause you to be what you say you're not, and you'll do it for years and claim it as a job description? Raise your hand if you understood what I just said. Now we talk about purpose and being authentic, and is that me? And you're being trained to be a voice of God, to be ministers of God. And some of you can say that's not you. You ever notice how you won't do what you're trained to do? Because some of you will say that's not you. But for a job, you will be what you're not, but you will claim that as an occupation. Some of you have been doing certain work for years and you do it. You do it, you help, you get paid for it. But sometimes when we are immature in spirit, we'll say, I can't speak, I can't talk, I can't prophesy, I can't walk in a solution, I can't establish an answer, I can't do that because I can't do that. That's not me. And that's because you, in your heart, you may feel you're not getting paid to do it. You're not being fulfilled to do it. So you'll say that's not you. But you'll be everything else. How many of you, do y'all follow what I'm saying? It's easy to be hired for a job than to be called into purpose. Because our job will pay you to be what you're not. And you'll do it for years. And even have a vision and an idea with it. And even have ideas to make it better. If we do this, if we do this, and you will have ideas with it. It's like money and salaries and a paycheck will give you the power to have ideas to establish order in an industry that's not even you. But when it comes to the Spirit of God and purpose, you notice how disconnected we are, and we'll say, no, I don't speak. I don't do that. No, I can't teach. No, I don't do that. That's not me. I'm acting like you. I can't be like that. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? And whenever there is no money involved or nothing satisfaction or fulfilling involved, we can't do it. So our heart is telling us that we need the world to give us an occupation with a check, to make us feel valuable, to make us feel like something. Where are you going in your life? And are you going there because others are going there? Or are you going there because it's your own findings? Because when you discover your findings, you become a great leader and a great teacher. You're not just a talker. You're a person who found something. You found it, and there is a command in your voice that proves that you found it. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Some of us have occupations that we've had for years because somebody's paying us to do it. So don't you know that the Holy Spirit is paying you for the job He's calling you for? Don't you know that this isn't mere talk, but that He's paying you for the job that you don't feel you can do, that He's paying you to be His voice. He's paying you to be His leader. He's paying you to be His teacher. He's rewarding you to be it, that you feel that you're not. Isn't that amazing? That your Father is giving you an occupation. Your Father is giving you an occupation. Because half of you on here are being paid for something that you say is not you. And you're going to get up and go to work tomorrow to what you say is not you. And so the same way, the job that's not you is training you for something. Don't you know purpose will also train you in something that you don't feel is you, to prepare you for something that's empowering and powerful? Don't you know that the Holy Spirit will put you in a position that you don't feel is you, to prepare you for something, just the way the world puts you in a position that you so readily accept? Did I make sense with that? Bridget, I know you're driving, but did I make sense with that? Purpose is going to train you. Purpose will train you in something you don't think is you, with an understanding that you don't think is yours, with a degree of thinking that you have never felt before. See, we have to know where we're going, and we have to identify it. I ask a lot of questions to see what you identify with. Are we just talking? Are you just listening to a sermon? Do you think there is an off-the-record relationship with this? Because that's what you're going to say. Do you feel that people have a heaven and a hell to put you in? Because whoever determines your emotion owns your heaven and can make your life hell. Some people do have a hell to put you in. The hell you're in right now is what's behind some people. Some of you may feel I put you there if you're trying to get my attention. Some of you are only happy if somebody makes you feel that way. Or if you feel you've pleased them, now you feel God is. Some people have a heaven to put you in. No, create your heaven. Get out of hell. But I could say it, but you're going to have a commitment and a discipline to a higher realm of decision making to ascend where you need to be. Because you just can't pray and get there. You just can't pray by yourself. You just can't put on some worship music and pray by yourself till you get the right feeling. Because God is not trying to give you and I the right spiritual feeling. You need the right spiritual maturity. You don't need the right spiritual feeling. You don't need the right prayer feeling. You need the right maturity. And you need to make decisions in the open, not spiritual Bible decisions. You need to make integrous decisions. You need to make decisions for and against things. You need to make decisions that's going to empower purpose, because purpose is going to pay you. The same way the job is paying you to be who you say you're not. But whenever people ask you what you do for a living, you mention what you're not. You follow what I'm saying? Hey, I hope you got this book, and I can't make the book change you. You change yourself. And I'm thankful for the support. And a lot of us read it and still have the same mindset. So you are determined. You determine your mindset. Another person's words can't make you change anything. But I'm thankful for those of you who read it and who are reading it. I'm thankful for those who read it and looked at it instead of reading it and moving on to the next one. I'm thankful for the royalties, but I really want to see the manifestation. And your change isn't for those who look for it. You're not changing under the gun for other people. Your change is based on you wanting more of something. Now, if you don't, a lot of us want more of something, but we may not be willing to go get it. Because when we find out what we have to do to get more, all of a sudden we become satisfied with what we have. We become content when we see the responsibility or the demands. Sometimes contentment is not based on satisfaction, it's based on despising the opportunity. And sometimes when we despise the responsibility of a thing, we become content with what we have. Because if we become content with what we have, it will exclude us from the responsibility, the greater. Raise your hands if you know what I'm talking about. Some of us are content out of fear of responsibility, not because we're really satisfied. It's because we are fearful of the responsibility. I'm afraid of the catalyst for the greater. And because I'm afraid of the major catalyst, I am content. You're really not content, but the responsibility was more than you are willing to deal with. Well, that's the type of father you have. God gives us great responsibility to make great change. We draw back because we're afraid of belief and afraid of knowing. And we draw back to become content, but we're not. But when you're mature, you know that. So what do you do? Look, I'm Undrai Fizer. If you want to sow, go to $Coach Fizer, go to my Cash App, or you could go to our new website at www.undraifizer.com. So we have new information on there. And we have a new facility at 7676 Hillmont Street, Suite 34411, in Houston, Texas. Hey, I'm opening for new students who want wisdom keys, not those who just sit to have access to information. Because if you just have access to it and I can't hold you accountable to it, you're going to quit. So those of you who want to be held accountable, you're just not going to make me hold you accountable. You have an intention to live in the future and live in that consciousness. There's plenty of hotels around the office. You can set up a time and inbox me on Facebook or email me and set up a time that you might want to come to the city to be developed even more in this consciousness. So the doors are being opened for proteges and new walkers of the truth who want to advance this life. Not just access to the information. You're not coming down here to steal. You're coming to be real. Most folks come and they get the information and then they don't do it and you can't hold them accountable to it. But if you feel drawn, whenever your heart is drawn to do something, follow it. You don't have to see if you're going to have permission. Whatever you seek, you go after. You knock, you ask. Sometimes you have to ask your way into the beauty of purpose. It's not always going to be an announcement to let you know something. Sometimes you have to create the opportunity. Sometimes you have to create the new day by asking that day to give you what wasn't in the schedule. Sometimes you have to ask the atmosphere to give you something that wasn't scheduled. So I'm just letting you know, some of our new viewers, that I'm open for that. You don't have to do it because I said it. Sometimes you have to position purpose to fit where you're going. You have to conform it. You have to require it to meet you. You understand? I'm Undrai Fizer. Peace.